Welcome to day 7 of Watches and Wonders. It's time to dive into the world of watchmaking and our very special final show. Good morning and welcome to the final morning show of Watches and Wonders 2023. It has been a big week, but the largest watchmaking rendezvous in Geneva is slowly coming to a close for the year. Today we'll bring you an extra special program full of the best moments and highlights of the past 7 days. Lots of laughs, lots of fun, but most of all, lots of watches. Time is ticking, so let's kick off with the morning show. As many of you know, Watches and Wonders 2023 opened its doors to the public. We had watch enthusiasts, students, families all visiting the fair for the very first time. Let's take a look at what they got up to, all on day 6.
Day 6 at Watches and Wonders Geneva, and it is sold out. It is the first day ever that it is open to the public, and as you can see, it is packed with watch lovers from all over the world.
Being here in the flesh today, yeah, it's phenomenal.
Is it your first time here?
It's my first time. I'm a virgin, but not anymore.
Are you coming from far away?
From Brunei.
Roma. I traveled from a very far destination called London. It's very far, it's 2 hours.
Palm Springs, California.
Oh, for the love of the craft.
It's a sickness.
So how much of a watch nerd are you, or are you just curious about coming here?
So I study watch engineering. My parents both work in watches, in the watch industry, so that's why I love watches and I'm passionate about it.
It's amazing. It gives another perspective on the industry. It's one thing to know and be interested about watches, but it's amazing to see the ins and outs of what it takes to make those things work.
People even got to meet some celebrities, like Tudor ambassador Fabien Cancellara, a retired professional Swiss cyclist. And we even learned we had some fans of our own.
Your morning show,
Yes.
I love it. And the late show, I love it as well. But what I do like is that you opened up to the public. People don't buy products, people buy people. Watches and Wonders, yeah, I think it's stepping in the right direction. So
Some members of the salon took the opportunity to bring their families.
Je suis contente de me voir.
She is so happy to finally see her dad, who she hasn't seen for the whole event week, and as she didn't imagine the place was so beautiful.
Je ne l'imaginais pas comme ça aussi.
Even though many were here to see what the major brands were up to, the public opening meant volumes for the smaller, independent brands.
Exactly. So for us, we're a brand that only produces a little more than 150 pieces a year. So it's pieces you don't see very often, and we see this kind of how people are really excited to see the products, and I think that's what the industry lives from.
The public did not only have the opportunity to get a first-hand look at the new collections released this week, but they also got to hear from the watch experts at the auditorium.
Together we'll try to define what makes the true value of a watch.
Now, needless to say, there are watches that are worth 10 times, 100 times, or even 1,000 times from others. The question is, do they make you 1,000 times happier?
And just like that, the first public day is over. We still have one more day left before we say a final goodbye to Watches and Wonders Geneva 2023.
Well, it seems there will be a lot of good memories coming from this event. Stay with us. We're going to bring you live inside the salon in just a moment. Now, throughout the week, Ariane has been roaming inside Watches and Wonders, taking you behind the scenes. And today she's coming to us live from inside the salon. Ariane, just tell us there, what is the mood and atmosphere like right now for the very final day of Watches and Wonders?
Olivia, the event has been a complete success this weekend. A formal event transformed into a very casual and relaxed one. Behind me, you can already see the people getting in line, eager to get a photo shoot about this event. We've seen in the previous video, in the previous highlight, of course, watch lovers, enthusiasts, collectors from all over the world coming here. We've also seen some locals really curious about what's happening. But, you know, what struck me the most really was was to see that event members were finally able to bring their families to this event. In all of the years that we've seen luxury watchmaking events in Switzerland, it is the first time that we see strollers, that we see babies in here, the kids, their faces in awe to see what their parents are up to. I know that it must be a similar experience for first-timers here, because I know that the first time I came here, it was like Disneyland for me. And after all, it is like Disneyland for watch lovers. So it is really refreshing to see everyone's reactions in here. Back to you, Olivia.
Well, thank you very much, Ariane. And I have to say, on my side, it was also great to be able to bring my husband and baby to the event for the first time. Obviously, very eye-opening for them, and especially my 5-month-old, who's already taking a look at all the watches. So, yeah. Coming up, we're going to dive into a very special segment. It's all about the watch trends of this year's fair. Let's take a look now at all the biggest trends of this year's edition of Watches and Wonders, from aesthetics to craftsmanship. Let's get right into it with our panel of experts, Gianfranco Ritchell, Joanna Langer, Carson Chan. You must all know their names by now. So this is it, everyone. It's the last day. Let's try to digest everything that we have seen. And I'd like to start with the very first trend, which is going to be about materials. Light, robust, resistant to corrosion. I'm talking, of course, about titanium, which has many advantages, and that's why the material is making its mark at Watches and Wonders Geneva 2023. But it's not the only material attracting attention here. The precious metal platinum was also the material of choice for many maisons. Let's start with the lightest material, Carson. Let's take it from here.
Wow, Olivia, you are becoming an expert. You're going to become the expert and take my job next year.
And you can sit here then next year.
I would love to. Please tell the producer.
We can switch on the table.
Absolutely. You're right. I think titanium is reconfirming as a material. Of course, we see many different watches with titanium, but the application of it, the usage of it. For example, we saw titanium on the Kermit, the Oris watch. You also see a lot of what we talked about, integrated bracelet, but now we also see brands using titanium onto the bracelet. Also, we can look at the Hublot Orlensky special edition with a different finishing. So sandblasted, very muted polishing, and also even some pieces with titanium into the movement. That is the high-sec watch that has the titanium movement in it. So it's really something that is very popular now. But I want to tell you, titanium also has other advantages. For example, it is biocompatible. So you see actually in medical field, a lot of usage of titanium, dental, using different screws into it. Submarines.
For instance,
yes.
Aerospace, or
Yes.
rockets.
Yes.
That makes the material so attractive. The technology, the application feels, and bringing these spirits in the watchmaking, that gives a little glimpse of, wow, higher technology on the wrist, right?
Yeah, you feel like you're wearing something very high tech.
Yeah.
So titanium was one of them. The next one you mentioned is platinum.
One of the most precious metals.
Very precious. How precious? Do you know?
A few times more than gold.
How many times?
30 times, I think. Rarer than gold, I've heard. Let's see if that's correct.
It's absolutely, Joanna is absolutely correct. It's 30 times more rare than gold. So this is a material that is very resistant, very difficult to work with. Yet many brands are putting a lot of effort into making platinum. Now, you have to understand platinum is being used in multiple different ways. You have brands using small bits of it. For example, the Parmigiani using the platinum bezel. But you also have brands that is doing more.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the platinum tech from Panerai. This was an amazing alloy from Panerai, so that really increasing even the strengthness of hard platinum. So that's easy.
I mean, in the past, we mostly have seen only cases, but now we master better and better to work on platinum, so we even see bracelet, full bracelet in platinum. So platinum, I love it because it comes back and it's so precious and perfectly matching the horlogerie spirit.
And that hasn't gone unnoticed from the maisons who are turning to this material. Moving on to the next trend, and Gianfranco, since you already started, let's get right into it. It's about colors. To give an overview for our audience, when it comes to colours, green is visible throughout the watch fair. We're seeing calm and soothing tones ranging from a deep evergreen to sage, emerald and forest green. But apart from the colours of nature, the pinks and reds are also finding their way into new novelties. Gianfranco, we talked a lot about green last year already, and I want to start with you because, as I've heard, green is your favorite color, and I see you're laughing there. So why don't you start us off?
Is that the reason why there is so much green? It's on my taste, but I mean, yeah, I love specifically the lime green. I love this color. My office is decorated like this. So yeah, true. We have seen green in the last 2 years. Now we see even more variation of green, perhaps a little bit more natural colors. I'm meaning like watch like the Limelight Gala of Piaget, which has a malachite dial, so natural colors, and Rolex also has a malachite dial, and many other brands applied different tonalities of green. So green is really established. We cannot call it a trend, but it's a confirmation. Green is also for watches, for men's, and for new watches globally, yeah.
So if we can move along the colour spectrum, we also notice these pinkish, reddy hues. Maybe Joanna, Carson, you can jump in there about what you've seen this past week.
Yeah, so this pinkish kind of color. So fun fact, did you know that Pantone have declared the color of the year as this Viva Magenta? So it's not actually a coincidence that we are seeing so much
of the red family.
Of this red. Yeah, so actually we've seen it going to like a burgundy red almost. If we think about Tudor or Panerai, for example, and then I've seen some of the more subtle going into the pinkish kind of with Patek Philippe or Van Cleef & Arpels.
Right.
We've seen a lot.
But to be honest, today the trend is everyone plays with colors, right? Yes. But mostly are the primary colors, the easy recognizable colors. So this pinkish trend, it was a little bit more, not hidden, but not so obvious to observe. But finally, everyone agrees between cherry pink and light pink and burgundy, many tonalities this year.
I thought that this would be an acceptable color within fine watchmaking. So it's the future is bright.
Well, let me turn it to you. Is there any color that you're still waiting to see, or personally for you, you'd love to have in your collection?
I've seen.
You can give inspiration to some of the watchmakers.
I've seen some brand who has it, but I haven't seen a lot of it, which is purple. Purple is something that I think it's going to be interesting, but you know, it might be catching on later. Who knows?
But if you have a closer look, you will find every color you want to find it. Yeah. You will find it this year.
Okay, something to keep in mind perhaps for next year. Now, the third trend, we're going to focus on craftsmanship. Métier d'art, it's a word we hear quite often, and that has become inseparable from fine watchmaking. This type of manual work on watch dials and cases means that maisons are developing their own workshops and working in very close collaboration with talented craftsmen. These skills, once threatened with extinction, are now experiencing an unprecedented boom. Joanna, a very simple question to you. Isn't watchmaking synonymous with craftmaking or craftsmanship?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course it is. However, we can extend that to the crafts like enameling, guilloche, even the different precious stones, the setting techniques, even the cut of the diamonds and the different colored stones. So we've seen that this week really a lot, right? Even on the architecture of the booths with the palace decor, let's say, on the Piaget booth that was surrounding us, the walls, the ceilings, that was really immersing us into this palace decor that they're so famous for. And of course, some brands brought craftsmen and women, so guillochage was demonstrated, or the enameling techniques.
I think in the past we dreamed more about the performances, about the technique, and now we dream more about beauty, about poetry, about craftsmanship, and craftsmanship brings this poetry in the watchmaking industry. So it's a nice complement to the performance spirit we had in the past.
Absolutely, and in fact, some watches actually focuses on that part. For example, the Chanel Pico Grid with the dial, they focus it on that and not really on anything else.
Absolutely, yeah.
I love the inspiration from nature for all of these. If you walk in, for example, the Van Cleef & Arpels, we have to mention with this enchanted forest. They immerse us completely within this inspired by nature, but with the precious stones, the automatums, everything's coming to life, the planets, and it lets us really dream.
And it brings us back some old techniques which was nearly forgotten. Enameling curved surfaces or engraving with the guillochage on curved surfaces, which is the most difficult. We have seen few of them, right?
Yeah, we are remastering those. That's great, isn't it? And also we are bringing a more, let's say, contemporary craftsmanship. If we think, I'm thinking of the cuff watch now with the organic shapes from Piaget. This is really like a new interpretation of using these crafts.
Did you see the puzzle? Two brands showing the puzzle idea in a more contemporary way, as I said, by Louis Monet, the more traditional one, and the Rolex, more modern interpretation. So that's a nice mix and matching of traditional techniques, but in a more modern and contemporary way. Lovely.
Still high-end craft.
True.
Now, all of this really reminds me of the conversation I had early on the week, and that was with the CEO of Jaeger LeCoultre. She was talking about bringing this all from behind the scenes to the forefront, because sometimes it can be a bit of a shame that we don't see all this craftsmanship on the surface.
We just heard it before, a gentleman, a guest today, which says it's people buys people. So it means behind every watch, there are some people designing, thinking, creating, and producing. We call them the little hands working. And that's the beauty of watches. There is the product, but there is much more behind to appreciate.
It's just like this show, for example. There's a lot of people working to put this together. It's not just us here in the studio. So moving on to the final, or not final trend, the fourth trend, in fact, and that's going to be about complications. The chronograph is everywhere. Maisons have become accustomed to this useful complication, which remains a must for any watch where endurance and performance are key. And forget a simple traditional tourbillon, most watchmakers are now going above and beyond. So I'm going to put you to the test. The clock is ticking. I'm starting my own chrono, okay? You've got 3.5 minutes. Joanna, time is ticking.
Let's start. Great. No pressure. So yeah, what has struck me this week especially is that chronograph, yes, we know it's a useful complication. We love the chronograph, but really making it visible. So bringing it to the dial side, and that of course has big connotations for how we're finishing and crafting the movements. So being able to see the full beauty of the chronograph on the dial side is definitely something that has struck me this week. We've seen it with Louis Monet, with JPEG, and other brands, many other brands in fact. And if not, perhaps large counters on the dial, so Angelus, for example, are making it extremely visible. And even more innovations within the chronographs we've seen with A. Lange & Söhne with the dynamic zero reset, or Grönefeld with the governor. So not just the prettiness and the craftsmanship, but also the brain behind it, and really extending that, so developing that more.
Yeah. You mentioned a nice example to illustrate that. I will even add the mono-pusher chronograph from Hermès, the H08, so elegantly integrated in this existing model. And yeah, showing the chronograph spirit. You mentioned Louis Monet, even making every single watch unique as you can choose the individual number. So it's celebrating the chronograph. As you said, it's one of the most prestigious complications, even if we see so many of them.
Now I'm checking my chronograph and it's telling me that we have 1.5 minutes left. So without explaining the tourbillon, because we don't have time for that, just tell us what you've seen this week regarding the tourbillon.
So, of course, classic tourbillon, yes, flying tourbillon, even tourbillon within various thinner models, with the Arnold & Son, I'm thinking. And so, yeah, not just resting on the classic 1-minute tourbillon, but building on that, we had the Jarreau tourbillon from Jaeger LeCoultre in the Reverso.
Which is not so easy to integrate in a shaped case, such a complication in an elegant way, right? And even the other one, which has the balance wheel quite near to the sapphire crystal in the Reverso, where you see the hairspring over it.
Challenging, yeah. It looks pretty, but I mean, the amount of expertise that goes behind this, we should not forget the watchmakers. They're the real stars of the show.
True.
Okay, so it's time to bring us nicely to the final trend, and this is transparency. Now, transparency took a front seat at this year's Watches and Wonders fair. Maisons wanted to highlight some of their movements, so watchmakers turned to a range of techniques. I'm going to list a few. They were smoking the sapphire dials, completely opening the dial, not to mention using skeleton movements. Gianfranco, coming to you, what is really transparency when we're talking about watchmaking?
Yeah, to better understand it, we have to do a bigger step back in the past. Not 200 years, just 20 years. In the past, we just had plenty dials. Then we began to open a little bit to make open dial. Then we made dials disappearing even more. Suddenly, you only saw the movement because it was fine to show your watchmaking knowledges on your wrist. And today, we even go deeper in skeleton movement. And more than skeleton, it's applying transparent materials on the movement, but also on cases. So that's a long evolution, which is growing and growing in the watch industry, celebrating the beauty. You can see the spirit of the watch really through this transparency globally.
And let's not forget the fumet dials. That we had some fumet dials where you can really see into the movement.
Right.
So I'm thinking, yeah, with the Patek Philippe, Miniature Peter, and also the Riviera we had with the fumet dial. So it's a really nice, subtle way to see into the movement.
Not only is it transparent, but it's also a technique. So it takes a high level of craftsmanship to manufacture something like that. But don't forget, we have brands like Rolex who started with doing, with the Daytona. They have a transparent case back.
For the first time in the Oyster collection, absolutely.
Yes.
And also, not only skeletoning to cut out the unnecessary material, but composing a new movement through the skeleton. We have seen this technique also in Cartier, the Santos Dumont, if I'm not wrong. So you celebrate truly the construction of the movement, additionally to the craftsmanship of taking a material away. So it's a nice evolution, which it helps people to demonstrate, as I said, I'm a connoisseur. Look at my wrist.
Yeah, and even adding light to it. With Roger Dubuis, they had this light show really on the skeletonized movement. So
no limits in this field, right?
Exactly.
Well, it seems that we've gone through quite a few of the trends, a lot to digest from this year. I'm curious to know what will be on the table for next year. But for now, I think that there's plenty for us to digest and think about for the coming edition. Thank you so much for joining us on this show. I know that you've done amazing homework for this segment, and we'd love to have you back next year to dive into the next new novelties. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Keep in touch.
Take care. We've made it to the end of Watches and Wonders 2023. We hope that you've had an incredible time this week, that you enjoyed yourself and learned a thing or two here on The Morning Show. From our side, it was a huge pleasure to bring you this show from our studios every day. And we would like to thank the team, not only the experts here, but everyone who's standing there right in front of us, the audience, the cameraman, the sound engineers. Hello and thank you. And of course, to the audience who's been watching, either from the comfort of your home or if you've been here at the salon, thank you for making this so incredibly enjoyable and engaging for us. We hope to see you very soon at the next Watches and Wonders. Take care and goodbye.